the end of the 1960, we'd been in training for probably 20 months or so, toward the end of 1960, early 61, when we all intuitively felt that pretty soon Bob Giroth had to make a decision as to who was going to make the first flight. When we received word that Bob wanted to see us at 5 in the afternoon one day in our office, sort of felt that perhaps he had decided. There were 7 of us then in one office. We had 7 desks around in the hangar in Langley Field. And Bob walked in, closed the door, and was very matter of fact. So he said, Shepard gets the first flight, Grissom gets the second flight, and Glenn is the backup for both of these 2 suborbital missions. Any questions? Absolute silence. He said, thank you very much, good luck, turned around and left the room. Well, there I am, looking at 6 faces looking at me, and feeling, of course, totally elated that I'd won the competition, but yet almost immediately afterwards feeling sorry for my buddies, because there they were. I mean, they were trying just as hard as I was. And it was a very poignant moment because they all came over, shook my hand, and pretty soon I was the only guy left in the room. That little race between Gagarin and me was really, really close. Obviously, their objectives, their capabilities for orbital flight were greater than ours at that particular point. We eventually caught up and went past them, but as you point out, it was the Cold War, there was the competition. We had flown a chimpanzee called Ham in the Redstone Mercury combination, and everything had worked perfectly except there was a relay which at the end of the powered flight was supposed to eject the escape tower because it was no longer needed, separate it from the Mercury capsule and eject it. For some reason, with the Ham's flight, it fired, but it did not separate itself. So the chimp was lifted to another 10 or 15 miles in altitude, another 20 or 30 miles in range. There was absolutely nothing wrong with anything else wrong with the mission. So our recommendation strongly was, okay, let's put Shepard in the next one. Everything worked fine. So the thing happens again, no big deal. Shepard goes a little higher. Werner said no. He said, we want everything absolutely right. So we flew another unmanned mission before Gagarin flew, then his flight, and then mine. So it was really touch and go there. If we'd put me in that unmanned mission, then we would have actually flown first. But it was tight. You know, actually the checkout, the countdown had been going very, very well. Of course, Glenn was the backup pilot, and he'd been in on the pre-flight stuff. The Redstone checked out well. We had virtually no problems at all, and we're scheduled for, I believe it was the 2nd of May, and I was dressed just about going out the door when there was a tremendous rainstorm, thunderstorm came over, and obviously they decided to cancel it, which I was pleased they did. It was rescheduled 3 days later, and of course went through the same routine. The weather was good, and I remember driving down to the launching pad in a van which was capable of, you know, providing a comfort for us, and with the pressure suit on and any last minute adjustments and temperature devices and so on that had to be made. They were all equipped to do that. The doctor, Bill Douglas, was in there. We pulled up in front of the launch pad. Of course, it was dark. The liquid oxygen was venting out from the Redstone. Searchlights all over the place. And I remember saying to myself, well, I'm not going to see this redstone again. And you know, pilots love to go out and kick the tires. And it was sort of like reaching out and kicking the tires on the redstone. Because I stopped and looked at it, you know, to look back and up at this beautiful rocket. And thought, well, okay, Buster, let's go and get the job done. So I sort of stopped and kicked the tires, then went on in and on with the countdown. There was a time during the countdown when there was a problem with the inverter in the redstone. Gordon Cooper was the voice communicator in the blockhouse. So he called and said that the inverter is not working in the redstone. They're going to pull the gantry back in, and we're going to change inverter. It's probably going to take about an hour and a half. And I said, well, if that's the case, then I would like to get out and relieve myself. We had been working with a device to collect urine during the flight that really worked pretty well in zero gravity, but it really didn't work very well when you're lying on your back with your feet up in the air like you were on the redstone. And I thought, well, my bladder was getting a little full, and if I had some time, I'd like to relieve myself. So I said, Gordon, would you check and see if I could get out and relieve myself quickly while they're fixing the... And Gordon came back in about, I guess there was some discussions going on outside. It took about 3 or 4 minutes, and finally came back and said, no, he says, Van Braun says the astronaut will stay in the nose cone. So I thought, well, all right, that's fine, but I'm going to go to the bathroom. And they said, well, you can't do that because you've got wires all over your body and have short circuits. I said, don't you guys have a switch that turns off those wires? And they said, yeah, we have. So I said, please turn the switch off. Well, I relieved myself, and of course, with a cotton undergarment, which we had on, it soaked up immediately in the undergarment, and with 100% oxygen flowing through that spacecraft, I was totally dry by the time we launched.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All right, lift off and the clock has started. Yes, sir. Reading you loud and clear. This is Freedom 7. The fuel is go. 1.2 G. Cabin at 14 psi. Oxygen is go. Cabin pressure is holding at 5.5. Cabin holding at 5.5. Fuel is go. 2.5 G. Cabin 5.5. Oxygen is go. The main bus is 24, and the isolated battery is 29. Well, 3 to 5, particular auto trip. 7 here. Fuel is go. 4G. 5.5 cabin. Oxygen go. All systems are go. That's all systems go. Protected auto trip. Cut off. Tower jettison green. Okay, switching to manual pitch. That's manual pitch. Pitch is okay. Switching to manual yaw. Manual yaw. Roger, 2, okay. Yaw is okay. Switching manual